It's the Weekly Wrap with your host, broadcasting legend Bruce Wolf, and his trusty sidekick, comedian Tim Slagle. And now, without further ado, Bruce Wolf.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. Tim, how you doing?
I'm pretty good. It's do you recognize the background?
It's my favorite part of the show, of course, is just guessing what the background is. It looks like carpeting that the Empire Carpet Man once offered me at 588-2300, but I wanted it used.
It's a holiday. It's a holiday week next week. Any idea what holiday it is?
Let's see. It's before Halloween. We just passed Shemini Atzeret in the
like half the world celebrates it.
Oh, Ramadan.
No.
Boy, now I'm really showing my ignorance. Christmas. It's Christmas in October. WLIT now playing your Christmas music. I'm sure they're playing it already. Half the world celebrates it. So,
well, maybe not half, but
some kind of devil worship or something. What is it?
Diwali.
I used to call him on WGN radio, and he'd give me 2 tickets to dinner for 2 at a Robin Hood restaurant and some Perfect Plus pantyhose. What is Diwali? Good golly, what is it?
It's the celebration of light in India.
Oh, okay, all right, fair enough. So turning to more parochial concerns, of course.
It's something people care about.
Well, I don't know that they care about it. I just love it when old Chicago TV newscasters decide that they're going to foray into Twitter, because it's really outside of their comfort zone. They're used to reading teleprompters. Even if they wrote their own scripts, it's pretty safe. And you know how dangerous Twitter is, even for professionals like us. But in any event, have you seen any of the ads on TV for they're against Pritzker? They're technically not for Bailey because it's done by that super PAC, which my old radio partner Dan Proft is making hay on with the vigorous on it, because Dick Uihlein has poured in about $50 million. They have ads showing Charles Thomas, the former ABC 7 political reporter, sitting there and ripping Pritzker, and it's kind of astonishing to see a former so-called objective political reporter. And let the record show that Charles Thomas is an African American, so it's especially surprising because that's your proverbial black swan there. Who he's supporting. A black man is supporting Pritzker. Stop the presses. So he talks about it. And Mark Giangreco, who was watching the Bears Washington Commanders game last week on Amazon Prime, said that the only thing more disturbing, he tweeted, than the game itself were those ads showing Charles Thomas endorsing or going against Pritzker. And he called him a shill and a sellout. And Charles Thomas responded on Twitter by saying, "Oh, sure, a black man has got to stay on the Democratic plantation." And and then even Ron Majers, former Channel 7, easily the best anchorman of all time, although that's a Chicago anchorman of all time, although that's a low bar. So Ron Majors actually tweeted, it's amazing how Charles Thomas played the race card here when Mark Giangreco was just questioning his ethics. And it's interesting that Ron would enter into the fray there, because I want Ron's opinion on should Mark Giangreco have been fired when Cheryl Burton played the race card and got him axed. It's just, I don't want to say there's a pattern here with Mark Giangreco. Here's Ron Majors' tweet. "Oh my, what appeared to be a judgment about reputation and ethics got a race card response. Says a lot about you, Charles." But I think it was reasonable of Charles Thomas to think, well, that he's getting criticized by being a sellout shill by a guy whose brother is a Democratic operative in the state of Illinois, and Mark makes no secret about being a Democrat too. You think that he would have yelled that Charles Thomas was a shill if Charles Thomas was doing an ad for Pritzker? I think not. So I think it was reasonable of Charles Thomas to say, "Oh yeah, because I'm black, you think I'm a sellout." Now, Charles Thomas did get 50 grand for this. So I think it should have been and it is noted somewhere, maybe in the fine print that he got that. He should have said, he should have been proud of it. I got 50 grand for this. And I really mean it. But the question is, I mean, do you believe him when he says that he's against Pritzker? And I think it's probably true. The funniest ad, though, and it's kind of I guess it's subtle, and maybe I'm reading too much into it, is he looks at whoever's interviewing him, and he says, Darren Bailey's a farmer, and this guy does something productive. He grows food. What has Pritzker done? And then he turns to the camera, and of course, the unwritten line there is, unless I'm reading way too much into it, is, well, Pritzker eats food. That's what he does. So, I mean, he couldn't just say it, but I think that's where that was going.
Pritzker's obviously been digging into the box of pillow mints from his hotel chain.
But anyway, I mean, I wanted Ron Majors to comment on, if he's talking about ethics, let's talk about Mark Giangreco. I mean, he's now, it's twice that he's been accused by black people of playing the race card, and Mark's a good old Democrat, liberal Democrat. I mean, he sounds like us, like Trump voters who are always being accused of racism. So,
what exactly? I don't get what the sellout thing. What is selling out about supporting a candidate?
Because
granted, he took 50 grand.
Yeah, well, that's something. And he's a political reporter.
If Pritzker would have offered him 50 grand, would he have?
Oh, I mean, where does the ethics begin and end in this campaign? I mean, Pritzker only shelled out what, 25 million or something like that to get Bailey nominated so he could beat him. I mean, where do the ethics begin and end?
I'm saying that that they're talking about Thomas starting the race card. I might be wrong, but when I hear sellout, I'm hearing a dog whistle there.
Well, I think it was a reasonable inference by Thomas saying, "Oh yeah, because you expect us, because no black man is going to do this unless he's an Uncle Thomas." And
unless there's some Benjamins attached to it.
Yeah, the Benjamin. It's all about the Benjamins. The $50,000 worth.
That's what I'm saying. Is
Charles Thomas said he tweeted, "Free black man runs off the Democratic plantation, and the white liberal Twitter dogs are barking." I do have to say something in Charles's defense, because I worked with Dan Proft like 8 to 10 years ago, and Charles was at ABC at that time. We were in the same building. WLS Radio was in the same building as WLS TV, and Charles Thomas would ask for Dan Proft's opinion on various news stories and use him as a source often. So there was a relationship going there. So it's not like it just spontaneously generated here for the money right now. I think he probably had these leanings before, and I believe him when he says that. I think he should have said, I got 50 grand and I'm proud of it. Hey, Thomas Friedman still gets paid for New York Times columns. Why can't I get paid for it too? But he shouldn't have hit it. They clothed it, very nicely. But
they should have had a briefcase with the money sitting in it right there on the table when he filmed the spot.
Yeah. Now here's the thing. I don't know how. And my favorite one of his. Well, that I told you my favorite one. Another one is that Pritzker has done nothing for black people because he promised marijuana dispensaries for black owners, and they haven't gotten it. So my top 3 issues in this campaign are crime, no dispensaries for black people, and the pandemic hysteria. That's right. Yeah. The dispensaries are a big issue.
Well, in Pritzker's defense now on this, have you purchased pot at a Illinois dispensary?
I've been remiss and I haven't done it.
Wow.
Yeah. It's pretty expensive.
My gosh, is it expensive? Yeah. So essentially what he's doing is he's
pricing black people out.
Encouraging people to go back through the drive-thrus in K-Town.
Yeah. Speaking of crime, so the Safety Act apparently has been panned. It's universally panned in Illinois right now. The no cash bail thing, you're familiar with that, Tim? Sure. And I mean, even Democratic.
Sure. It's hurting the bail bond industry in Illinois.
even Democratic states attorneys are against this, with the exception of Reinhardt, I believe, in Lake County, and of course Kim Foxx. But they're really concerned about it because like the Will County state's attorney is saying, well, what are we going to do? These people are going to be out on the streets when we have no cash bail. And I was actually watching to bone up on this, a Channel 11 report, Chicago Tonight report on this from it may have been almost a couple of months ago, and they tried to be even-handed on it. They had some Democratic assistant state's attorney, they had a Cook County public defender doing on it, and they even had a Republican state legislator. But they conceded that, for example, New Jersey's no cash bail law, which has been in effect for a while, has been successful. Well, no, not necessarily, because there was a nice little crime spree. Now, the governor, Phil Murphy, attributed it to the pandemic ending, and there was this pent up, I guess, need to go out and commit crimes.
Well, I think maybe it was Putin invading Ukraine.
It's possible. I mean, you never know. It could have been the Astros making it to another league championship series. A lot of people get angry about those things. So, it seems like everybody's against that. Or, well, the Sun-Times apparently has come out against it as well. So it's probably going to be amended or repealed, but it doesn't look like it's going to sweep Pritzker out of office, even though it should be one of the things, because he's been light on crime, and he was trying to defend this act, but now it seems somewhat indefensible.
Well, I think we should offer an option. Either you can pay post cash bail, or those collars you put on dogs when you try to keep them from stop barking.
Sure,
it gives you a shock. If you can wear one of those.
Yeah,
if you skip bail, all of a sudden you're going to be on the floor.
You get zapped. It's like a remote tasing, and I'm with you on that. I think you might have PETA, come out against it. But it's only you're doing it to humans. That's fine. That's fine. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
The right that I pushed hard and it finally got changed. The married couples in the privacy of their bedroom. Excuse me. I'm thinking about the Dobbs decision. Imagine. Well, I'll get to that in a second.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap, and one of Biden's had a lot of them, but that might be a top 5 non sequitur or word salad.
That's something kind of antiquated. It's you don't sleep with someone until you're married, and if you're in a big rush, of course you're going to do it right there in the bedroom.
I totally understood. But there are some consequences to this. Being married in the privacy of your own bedroom. I think that we should change the law that requires 20 witnesses to the consummation of the marriage in that bedroom. And what was it like in Oklahoma or something? They had a chivalry. You remember that, where they bang the pots and pans and all that while the couple retires to the room for the consummation of the marriage. And
boy, I don't recall that.
Yeah,
I do remember John and Yoko, though, but they didn't get married, but they could have had a wedding in their bed.
Well, sure. Then they stay in bed for like a number of weeks.
Yeah, with the Smothers Brothers and
right.
I think Lenny Bruce or something like that.
And Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice, I think, were in that bed with, and I think it was on a Hugh Hefner bed at the Playboy Mansion that rotated, and everybody was getting very dizzy. I'm getting dizzy just thinking about it. But here's the thing: if you have the wedding in the bedroom, and if all the guests are like sitting on the bed, where do you throw the coats? See, these are the things that I think of. Anyway, Biden did. Now, is he still sniffing young girls' hair? There's a tweet. President Biden grabs a young girl by the shoulder and tells her, "No serious guys till you're 30." As she looks back, appearing uncomfortable. Secret Service.
That's more than uncomfortable. That's a face I've seen in every horror movie.
Right. Well, the thing is that he's close to 80. So I mean, he's great grandfathered in there, and he is allowed to massage a little bit. There's no
well,
problem.
according to his daughter, he was fathered into the shower too.
So, speaking of great Democrats who don't aren't really thinking too well these days, Fetterman in Pennsylvania, and I think he is neck and neck with Dr. Oz right now. Apparently flip-flopped on the fracking issue, and I just thought. Well, he says he always supported it, but I guess before he said he didn't support it, and reminds me a little bit about Hillary Clinton, was it, who was against the war before she was for it or something. But
how nice of the Washington Free Beacon to show a picture of him on the side that doesn't have the tumor.
Right. That, and that's the Free Beacon. That those are our people, and that I think they turned the other cheek, or the other side for him. But wouldn't it be cruel to make anyone, much less Fetterman, say Fetterman fracking flip flop 2 times in a row? I mean, that would be cruel. I think. When I used to be a sportscaster, I had a box over my shoulder when the Blackhawks would be playing the Detroit Red Wings, and it said, "Say Red Wings 10 times real fast." And it was a nice distraction from the fact that I had nothing of substance to say on camera. But Fetterman fracking flip flop is not an easy one either. If he could say it, I think he's qualified to be the senator from Pennsylvania. I included this in our rundown, and it's about.
There you go. You go. There's the conjoined twin right there.
Oh, okay. For those of you who can't see this, would you describe the picture?
Sure. It's like he's growing another head just under his ear.
Yeah.
It's his right side, and there's something wrong there. That's not right.
Reminds me of Marty Feldman as Igor in Young Frankenstein, saying
more like Alien.
What hump? So right. So,
it looks more like Alien. It looks like something's about to hatch out of there.
That's okay. It's probably eligible to vote in the Pennsylvania Senate race. So I put this in the rundown because I thought I'd do that little observational kind of humor, which I don't think will necessarily work because I've set it up too much right now and for the big downfall. But I noticed the other day that I had some couch fries. Now bag fries, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, do you enjoy like French fries that you find at the bottom of the bag? I mean, everybody.
Oh my gosh, yeah, because you think it's over. You think that's it. There's no more.
It's your favorite thing. Now, I tend to cheat on that because when I take the fries out of the bag, like I'll even pour a few into the bottom of the bag to ensure that I have bag fries, which takes away some of the. Well, there's no surprise anyway. It's rigged.
Unless you have severe Alzheimer's, yeah.
Well, then, when I am forgetful about that, so it doesn't have to be that severe. But
you know what else I like? I like McNugget fries. When you get an order of McNuggets, and there's a fry or two in there. That's right.
It's
a
like
nice treat.
It's almost like a hybrid. It's like when you see an egg that has a red dot in it, and I always thought that was like the heartbeat, or the heart was still in the chicken or something. So if you find a fry in there, it's better than finding a little leg sticking out of your McNugget. Although that would prove that it's actually chicken. But the other day, I noticed, because I'm a rather sloppy eater, that I had what I have to term our couch fries. There were a few French fries that had spilled on the couch. And that, since I hadn't planned it like I do, like I rigged the whole bag fry thing, was a bonus. Now, of course, there's a little bit of fuzz and there's probably a lot of microbes in it. But I wondered if you had ever indulged in a couch fry, not something that you had to dig out of the bottom, like when you spill them in your car on the way home and then find a petrified fry.
Well, in the winter, I think it's all right because it's refrigerated.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
I
agree with
think
you on that
Matt
one.
fries. I think those will be Matt fries. I think, and if you have WeatherTech, it's
Oh, okay.
nice and clean.
Okay.
It's,
Anyway, so I did have some couch fries. We were talking about the political advertising of Charles Thomas specifically in the last segment, and I was wondering, there are so many of these ads, and you wonder about how effective they are. And do these political action committees and these candidates actually have to pay for these ads if they don't do anything? And I was wondering, maybe the station should only get paid if people vote on the basis of having seen that ad, and that you should have a promo code on the ad itself, on the political ad, say, promo code NBC5 News at 10, and then then they get
kind of like
for this.
yeah, kind of like if you're sponsoring My Pillow. You
Totally.
give a code word out that you
Yeah.
put in, and the customer gets a discount, and then whoever's code gets used gets a little.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, and that's the way,
yeah,
because I mean,
sure.
these commercials are running all over the place, and I don't know how effective they are. But if you put the promo code Brant Miller, he gets a little extra in his Christmas stocking from Channel 5, not just because he does the weather so well. It's a thought.
I've been noticing the signs are up all over, and I can't. It's inconceivable for me to think that somebody goes, "Oh, look at all the signs for that candidate. That's the one I'll pick."
There must be some studies that, I mean, you and I and most people. First of all, I made up my mind for this election in 1966. Okay, I mean, I haven't changed. I voted for one Democrat in my life, and it was Ed Hanrahan for state's attorney, and that's because he had raided the Black Panther party headquarters and killed Fred Hampton. And then I found out a couple of years later that it was wrong. I should probably have voted for Barack Obama just for reparations for that. But and then years later, I'm a young attorney, and Ed Hanrahan is in the same line with me, for the motion call, just like any other dumb attorney. That's how far he had fallen. I probably have told that story before, but it always bears repeating. And that's the only Democrat I ever voted for. So I made up my mind in 1966. So I don't even know how these people are affected by anything. But
so you're gonna vote Republican to the day you die. After that, probably Democrat again.
maybe you revert to that. You finally have seen the light, and you're gonna vote Democrat and then make up for it. You have all eternity to make up for everything. So now I do know. I think the strongest indication, though, that Bailey is getting trounced, no matter what my ex-partner, radio partner Dan Proff's push polls have said, is that Dan tweeted that Illinois is really psychotic because apparently the nation as a whole supports Biden something like 35%, but in Illinois it's something like 50%. So that's an indication, how bad the state of Illinois is. And I mean, it's a great excuse, a very good way. And no wonder Dan has moved to Florida. I don't blame him. But then I wonder why Dick Uihlein, the mega donor, is pumping $2 million into Bailey's campaign.
He also moved to Florida, didn't he?
Did you move to Florida?
I thought he did, didn't he? Maybe I'm wrong.
I just wonder why he's pumping $2 million into Bailey's campaign. It would almost seem like, oh, maybe there's a chance. There is this red wave, but I haven't seen any indication that in so many other states the races are tightening and the Republicans have a great shot, but not over here. Anyway,
I think the philosophy is that Republicans just won't admit it. That there's silent Republicans, and that's what they're counting on.
Right. Look, it has to be the Trafalgar poll squared in order to help out in Illinois, I think. Bruce Wolf and Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
Now we're getting some information after a while. We have time to find out just how bad the collateral damage has been. Here's just a few cases. The pandemic erased 2 decades of progress in math and reading. See, right away, I got to say, this pisses me off. I see these headlines all the time. The pandemic didn't do that. The way we handled the pandemic did that. The pandemic certainly was a thing. But let's not just say the pandemic, because it was not written in stone that we had to handle it the way we did. ACT scores are the lowest in 30 years. Anxiety and depression way up. The body mass index increased, doubled for kids 2 to 19. Drug overdose deaths. Murders way up. Inflation at a 40-year high. Domestic violence increased. And my favorite, car crashes. They couldn't figure this out. Like way up. And finally, I love this. This is the expert said. You know what it is? People just went fucking mental.
Tim Slagle on the weekly wrap. Tim, I hate it when I agree with Bill Maher. It's like, you know how there's cultural appropriation, like when Israelis eat hummus because it's Palestinian and they're not supposed to do that.
I understand though that Israelis put more garlic in their hummus than Palestinians.
Well, I mean, I was just hearing this on a commentary podcast today. It's such a joke, this whole cultural appropriation argument, because the Israelis who brought the hummus to Israel had been expelled from the Arab countries. So, I mean, they had to leave. So, they had hummus with them and now they can't eat it because that's cultural appropriation. But I think there's definitely Bill Maher. It's political appropriation. He's taken our ideas and, he gets to be the liberal Democrat, gets to have his hummus and eat it too, I guess, but I agree with him on the whole pandemic thing. And I thought that this was the tack that we should take in Illinois, because that's what people are really angry about. I'm not saying they're not upset about crime. They are, but almost all the ads are about crime in Illinois. But Dick Uihlein got another $50 million. Do ads about how
he
how JB Pritzker
shut down the state.
He shut down the state and
declared people non-essential.
And you get Charles Thomas, former ABC7 political reporter, the current shill. You get him to say, because of the pandemic, your kid was starting to get as fat as JB Pritzker. And, that I think that would have been a win. Dick Uihlein, you don't have to pay. And what about this Uihlein? Why doesn't he just cut out the middleman Dan Proft? Dan's gotten enough of the vigorous here. He's not even a resident of the state of Illinois anymore. And Dick Uihlein, go on the air yourself. I mean, put your mouth where your money is. And I'm sure you're a very articulate man. And, I'd be his sidekick for $50,000 a show. There's no question.
Somebody pointed out to me that the Bill Maher's politics are pretty much in line with the girl he's seeing at the time. And that much like Leonardo DiCaprio,
sure.
he likes a new model. He doesn't like those used ones. He likes to trade them in once they've getting a little mileage on them.
I understand. He doesn't, he I think he leases. He doesn't own. But
but that's what I'm saying is for a while he was vegan. It's because he was dating a vegan. For a while he was very left. I think now he's probably dating a conservative girl.
And that goes in tandem with DiCaprio, who I believe has upped it to 26-year-olds now. Part of that is inflation, but and he's getting older. There's still the gap.
Well, the new ones they can't get the chips for.
Yeah, right. But the gap is between the age gap is still as wide because he's gotten older as well. But yeah, that's a good boyfriend who will kowtow to his to his girlfriend's beliefs. So it reminds me a little bit of Jane Fonda. I mean, here's Hanoi Jane. I'll never forget. She's dating Ted Turner. Didn't she even marry him? I can't even remember.
I think she did. I think
she married him. And there she is in the Atlanta Fulton County Stadium doing the tomahawk chop. I mean, and also having married Ted Turner, who was about, as big a male egomaniac as you can get. And, there's Hanoi Jane, but
Well, I think Time Warner got her when he sold off TBS, didn't she?
Right.
I think she was part of the deal.
Yeah, sure. He might have been the greatest asset. So Anyway, I agree with Maher, and I would have gone that route, at least equal to the crime route. I mean, the Democrats are all about abortion. I mean, everything is about abortion, and they're talk about chips. I mean, they're putting all of it on abortion, which, according to the polls, it's just not that big a deal. It might have been right after the Dobbs decision, but it's receded. So, too bad. Yeah, but back to crime, which people do care about. This disturbing video. I mean, this carjacking. This was on 18th Street, the 18th Street exit, and as I tweeted, I'm pretty sure that regular people use the 18th Street exit. Am I right about that?
I don't get off at 18th Street unless I absolutely have to.
Well, isn't that Taylorville? Aren't there some nice restaurants there?
Are there? I don't
I mean,
know.
maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I thought that this carjacking they were showing, if you can't see it. I mean, there's a guy in a mask, and he stops the car, and he's got a rifle, and it's in broad daylight, and
well, first he offers him cash, doesn't he?
Oh, does he? Does he offer?
If I'm not mistaken, yeah. First he offers him some cash, and the guy goes, "No, I'm not selling you my car for that." So then he pulls out the rifle. So I mean, it was
How much cash did he offer?
I think a big fistful. I think
it might have been a good deal. Anyway, is that the kind of thing that since I don't watch the local news anymore, I would lead with that on the newscasts. Especially now that, for example, like Channel 5 is going to lose an hour of prime time, it looks like, and they're going to have to start their news at 9 p.m. And I mean, I just showed this video over and over and over again for an hour until the 10 o'clock news.
I didn't know that they lost an hour of prime time.
It may happen, and these local stations don't know what the heck to do, because I mean, there's only so many ways that you can tell the weather story, and
reruns of MASH, huh?
It's hard to put you start putting a rerun of MASH in there. Basically, you're reverting to Channel 32 in 1986. That may be what it comes down to. MASH.
So what's happening?
Bunch.
They're not creating the programming anymore.
Well, it's expensive. It's very expensive. So they're thinking of turning back an hour. The networks are like NBC's investing more in Peacock and streaming services, and the local stations are begging. But good riddance, I say. They got rid of me. I read this story in this business publication about TV. As if I'm still in it. But I read it, and they were talking about novel ways of presenting the news and novel streaming ways. And one of the ways they were talking about that somebody had a drag queen news hour.
Hey,
so I'm offering right now to my old boss, Frank Whitaker at Channel 5. I will get into one of my wife's nighties, and at 9 o'clock, I will do the news. And I'm telling you, the toss to Allison Rosati for the 10 o'clock news from 9 to 10 is going to be memorable every single night. I guarantee you. So, but yeah, that's what's happening.
Oh, that'd be great. Good.
Yeah.
So now the news with Mrs. Doubtfire.
So what
there was a state like in the early days of the internet. It was one of the first sorted things that came on the internet. They had naked news. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah,
and you could actually subscribe and watch a girl take off her clothes while she read the teleprompter.
Not a bad idea. Look, I remember the weather bunnies, who knew nothing about the weather. I mean, nowadays, they're smart weather bunnies. I mean, like Cheryl Scott went to Brown University, so she's both a bunny and smart.
Uh-huh.
So, but it doesn't matter, because who needs to get the weather from television? I've got an iPhone. I don't need that. So, did you see this where these climate change activists threw a tomato soup on I believe a Van Gogh painting in the Louvre, or one of those museums? And I mean, they absolutely wrecked this painting. But I'm thinking, they don't have any sense of irony or the meta possibilities. if you're going to throw tomato soup at some piece of artwork, throw it at Andy Warhol's Campbell soup can painting. That's, I mean, think your people aren't, they threw it at a Van Gogh in London. I mean, think people. That's what,
what is the significance of throwing soup on a Van Gogh painting?
Well, what are you supposed to throw at a Van Gogh painting? Spray paint?
First of all, yeah. Why throw anything at a painting? I mean, how does that protest the climate?
Are you saying you don't see the causal nexus between
global
desecrating
warming and
artwork and causing and affecting climate change? I mean, the next thing you're going to tell me is the fact that we had a tough hurricane the other day isn't evidence that the world is going to end tomorrow. I mean, come on, get with your post hoc ergo propter schlock. All right. So, on that note, we got one time for one.
I don't know if you saw this. This just happened as a bunch of, because these climate protesters, they're super gluing themselves all over the world. And a bunch of scientists glued themselves in a Porsche dealership or something like that.
Oh, okay.
And they turned off the heat and they shut off the lights and went home and left them glued overnight. And when they came in the morning, they were complaining that they wouldn't even give them a chamber pot to use.
Oh, that's
left them. They left them sit in their own mess.
I'm pretty sure the owners of the Porsche dealership could be liable for not being hospitable. I would certainly pursue that tort. Bruce Wolf and Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
It's like, I just think the same way. I almost look at like a football season, like you're going away on deployment in the military. Yeah. And it's like, man, here I go again. And there's only one way to do it. And I think, Jim, we've talked from time to time just about how do you enjoy the certain moments.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. Yeah. So Tom Brady, I mean, he's got to watch, everything, everything he said ever since he was accused of, do you even remember Inflategate or whatever it was called, or Deflate when they deflated the football?
I actually think this is Inflategate.
I think so. Yeah. So, it sounded worse than it really was. I actually heard like a big chunk of that interview, and it was just kind of like a throwaway, and he wasn't trying to make it sound like he was in the military, and and of course.
Well, the only sniper fire you have to deal with in the NFL is sportscasters.
Pretty much. And you don't have to deal with defensive players, because there was a controversial play this last week or the week before. He was sacked by an Atlanta Falcons player, I think it was. And the guy tackled him. That's what it's called, tackle football. He didn't rough him up. He didn't do anything like that. And the guy was called for intentional infliction of emotional distress and had to pay $45 million in damages. No, he got a penalty.
At his age, he could break a hip.
Sure. So anyway, he apologized for comparing himself to somebody in the military, but it was a poor choice of words he said. But if I were Brady, I would have doubled down and said, "Are you kidding me? I mean, really, today's soldiers." First of all, we don't deploy any soldiers anywhere. We're certainly not deploying anybody to Ukraine. Every lost life is horrible, but this isn't like the Civil War where one out of every 5 American males died or whatever. I mean, this isn't Vietnam. It's not even Iraq. It's a couple of years and then you get an education loan or something. I'm putting myself in harm's way. I mean, that's what I would have done. I would have been cocky. But I'm not Tom Brady, and he's facing a lot of marital problems.
One concussion gets you out of the the battle theater.
Right.
in the military.
Go back in there. Anyway, so that's he apologized for the whole thing. I normally don't read tweets about us. I think it's too self-serving, but I did get a kick out of this one by a guy named Richard Robbins, who has been following me for years. I'd say honestly, I wish about 50,000 more people were like him. I'd still have a career. But But anyway, so he said, congrats on migrating. And he saw the show last week where I changed from my blue shirt to a red shirt. And he said, congrats on migrating from Joseph A. Bank to Hee Haw. Tim is funny and the banter with him is entertaining. Can't last long with the Mark Levin wannabe narrative. I think that's a point, and that's going at you. FYI, they do make these thingies that hold the microphone for you. Okay, I get it. So at all apt criticism, no question about it. So
we've been trying to get you one of them thingies, and it never works.
No problem. I don't think I really have to add to what Richard Robbins said there. Res ipsa loquitur, as we say in the legal trade. But speaking of football, I saw this tweet. Football is so. And it's all the sports now. There's so many technical terms, and everybody's familiar with all these things that we never even knew existed back in the day. I mean, like with baseball, on base percentage plus slugging. It was a batting average. And now, in football, for the quarterback, somebody was criticizing Justin Fields, the Bears quarterback's median sack time, or MST as we call it, median sack time, which apparently. The median sack time in the NFL is like 4.29 seconds, and he holds the ball much longer than that, and that's why he's getting sacked. And I'm thinking,
I think my wife says my median sack time is about 4.21 seconds too.
All right, Tim, thanks to me for setting you up with Richard Robbins. I want you to write a tweet saying how Tim stole my punchline right here. I mean, I was trying to. But that's what I get for trying to be the placeholder and the field goal kicker. I mean, you can't be Lucy and Charlie Brown. I'm glad you took it. All right. Well, try this one on for size, Mr. Funny Man. Okay. So the Packers, who had just gotten back from London, were dealt a big loss by the New York football team. I guess the Packers were suffering from Jets lag. Okay. All right. How about that one?
Yeah.
All right. So.
Yeah. Who says you're not entertaining?
Oh, I saw you. So did you see where the this is Mattel's way of doing reparations, because they've always felt guilty about Barbie. And it's not like, so they're coming up with all these minority dolls and everything I mean, they should have come up with a flat-chested Barbie. I think that would have, would have helped salve the wounded egos of a lot of females over the generations. But they now have a Tina Turner doll as part of the Barbie signature collection, which honors trailblazing women. And our producer, Chris, I'm going to let you get the line in before I read you what Chris said about it. What do you think? What do you think, Tim? He said it should have a black eye on it. So, and I just, and that's why Chris doesn't show his face on this show. That's why he doesn't show his face. Now, I thought, because I don't think that way, Mattel was trailblazing in the early 1960s, because I'm pretty sure that Ken was the first trans doll. I mean, yeah, so anyway.
This makes a lot of sense that they would do this, because I don't know if you know, Bruce, but in the homosexual community, Barbie collecting is very popular.
Are you serious?
Absolutely. It's like the dolls that their parents yelled at them when they tried to play with when they were little. They want to buy now that they have high disposable income.
Here's the problem, Tim. You lost me when you said the homosexual community, because you sounded like Buford T. Pusser stopping me a traffic stop.
I don't know how else to say it, Bruce. A bunch of the gays like the Barbies. Is that better?
I mean, it would have been a slight improvement.
But if you look, they have Cher Barbies. They have the Bob Mackie collection Barbies.
Oh really?
So yeah, so Tina Turner. I mean,
Liza Minnelli, is she in there anywhere?
I actually, in Chicago for a while, they hosted something called the Kenvention.
All right.
And it was because they have Barbie collector conventions all over the country.
All right.
And but this is the only one dedicated entirely to Ken.
Okay, so
And I went there. I saw it.
Yeah, you sure did go there. There's no question about that. Yeah, I thought I'd get away with a Ken Trans joke. I thought it was really going a little too far to even mention Chris's Tina Turner joke there.
I know more about Barbies than I should.
Really? Well, yeah, apparently you do. I mean, I didn't. For me, it was a whole throwaway. I didn't know you were going to do a dissertation on Mattel. So a pair of 140-year-old Levi's jeans were found in an abandoned mine shaft, and they sold for $76,000 at an auction earlier this month. $76,000 for a pair. That's $38,000 a leg.
Okay, I thought it was higher than that. I thought it was.
You thought it was higher than that? Okay,
I thought it was higher than that.
That's not enough.
33, 32. Wow.
Oh yeah. I mean, well, wait. We're looking at,
and they still have the tag on them.
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
That's why they got so much money for them.
I don't think we're looking at the 140-year-old pair, because I see an assembly line of about 50 of them right behind that. So, maybe it was an old Gap store that they found. It was covered by some kind of earthquake. And
I tell you, some of the Levi's you see the girls wearing around today looks like they're from the 18th century.
Really? All right, I'm going to go. This may be a spoiler alert. The House of the Dragon. Are you watching that? House of the Dragon?
I am.
Okay. Are you up to date?
I think so.
Okay. You saw Sunday's episode.
Pretty sure.
Okay. So this is a spoiler alert for anybody else. So that scene with the pretty queen, the young queen, her husband had died.
I know what scene you're talking, where she takes off her shoes.
Yeah. Why don't you walk all over me with your bare feet right now, Tim, on that one?
I'm sorry.
I mean, it was jaw dropping, because I didn't even, you don't even know what's going on. She's there with her crippled aide. Okay.
Yeah, who's got one sideways foot.
And he gives her this life-saving counsel, and she repays him in what obviously was their customary fashion. But you know that they'd done this before. She takes off her shoes, and she shows him her naked feet. At first, you don't even realize that at first you think she's just taking off her shoes because she's had a hard day in the.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. It's in
the dungeon. She's showing her naked feet, and then all of a sudden, he's burrowing his hand into his clothes and burnishing his machete, if you know what I mean. And while she turns away and thinks of King's Landing or England, I'm not sure. And Tim, do you agree with me? I think that was all well played, but methinks it would have been better served. Think about this, with Ray Romano and Patricia Heaton in the roles with a laugh track. I mean, begging for sex. I mean, that was stunning, wasn't it? Wasn't it?
Yeah. When he started fishing in his robe, you're saying, "Oh gosh, I hope he's got, I hope he has like a bag of beef jerky in there, and he's just going."
Well, yes, he did have a bag of beef jerky in there, my friend. And on that note, Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
And that's the Weekly Wrap on radio and television. Follow Bruce at Bruce Wolf Shy on Twitter and Tim at timslagle.com. The Weekly Wrap with Bruce Wolf, a CP Pods production. Copyright 2022.